Hello, Booktube, and greetings from my poor, war-torn apartment, where, as you can see, those of you who are new to the channel might not have been hearing me complain about this, and why should you miss out? I'm having in-home construction done. Destruction is more like it. It started off as a small patch, and doctors diagnosed it as fairly benign, and it has grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. And it's still growing. Right now, I think I know the size of this project, but I'm pretty sure that by the end of this week, we'll be starting work on your living room. And as you can see, those of you who are old-time fans of the channel will know that I have been driven back to the timeless precincts of my little book room. I've been driven back to my sanctum sanctorum. This is where I will be making videos for the foreseeable future. And that means that the bean is over on the bed, but she's not in the camera frame. There's nowhere for her to be. So you have needlepoint bean instead to remind you where your loyalties lie. This was, despite the inconvenience, a very, very good day. The work, once it got started everywhere else in the house, this room was completely unmolested. I have a tiny little AC unit in the window that you can probably hear it in the background, and it is perfectly fine for dealing with this room. The room itself is a square, it's a box. It has a closet that is sort of appended off it, but I've long since closed up the closet and just, there was a door, I just close the door and leave it that way. I don't consult the closet at all. So I have just a square of space. It's too much space for me. It is the smallest room here, but it's still too much space for me. I would like it if it were half this size. Most of the little book rooms that I've had have been half this size or smaller. But it fits a good number of books, and I've got a good amount of writing done, a good amount of reading done, an epic amount of reading. And the normal parameters of the day have not been all that affected. It's almost tempting to think that there's no inconvenience here, but of course there is. There is a huge inconvenience, which is that I don't have any other rooms. But it wasn't a boiling hot day. There's heat coming. But it wasn't here today. Today was a warm, wonderful day. And every time Frida went outside, every time we went out for our little walks, we would go at a relatively relaxed pace. She doesn't charge ahead when it's hot. She's a charge ahead kind of dog, but she's never been able to handle the heat very well. So she is content just to walk around the leafy neighborhoods. And we met lots and lots of people, and that's her favorite thing to do, is to meet people and scream at them to fuss over her. And then when they stand up and say, oh, well, that was nice, suddenly everyone's startled because Frida will scream at the top of her lungs a long, sustained note. She can sustain the note for like 45 seconds. Which might not sound like long, but try it. Try it. You'll see how long it is. And that is her gentle way of telling you that she wasn't quite ready to stop, that you should bend down and start fussing over her again. And that was wonderful to watch all day long. She has lots of devoted fans in the neighborhood now who just like that. But another thing that continued to happen during the day was mail. Mail, not only in my inbox, the email, no one else in the world knows that my apartment is a war zone, that there's floors and windows torn up and tarps over everything. So the emails continued, the work continues, and also mail in the post. And I wanted to do a little mail today. I have two packages. One is an envelope and one is a box. So let's see what we have here. This first one, we'll do the envelope first. Okay. Well, the envelope is from one of you. It's from a worshiper, as all of you are. I assume that all of you worship at the altar of your sexiest possible YouTube influencer. And this package comes from a town in the American Midwest that I know quite well. But nevertheless, we don't send Steve a book, right? I don't have any of my usual platforms here. I'm just on a chair. We don't send Steve a book. Those of you who are new to the channel, we are approaching the next subscriber milestone on what appears to be an inexorable drive for 13K. So there are new people here who might not be versed on the rules of the channel. Rule number one, there are all sorts of other rules, right? One of the most important that isn't rule number one is Steve is always right. But rule number one is don't send me a book. Now, I know your hearts are in the right place. I've had emails from people from you all for years now saying, I have gotten so many book recommendations from you, or I don't have any book recommendations, we have very different reading tastes, but I love listening to you talk about books. I don't get that anywhere else in my life, or a million variations on those themes. And people say, I wanted to give you something in return. And it's natural, since I'm surrounded by books all the time, and books are, aside from Frida, literally, they are my life. They're everything I do for fun. They are my passion, and they're also my livelihood as a columnist, an editor, and a reviewer. So it seems like a natural fit, but it's not. In fact, if you think about that situation, the books being my life, for just a minute, you'll realize why it's not a natural fit. Because I already know what I want, right? I know exactly what I want and what I don't want. I know exactly how to get it. I know when I want it. I know what form I want it to be. And think about, who's another young YouTube influencer? Tucker Gott is a young YouTube influencer. I think he's had that melancholy moment that quite a few of you have had in the last 6 years. I think he has had the moment where he went from being younger than I am at 28 to being older than I am. Which is always a sad moment for all of my friends. But he has a paragliding channel. It's terrific. Paragliders, where you're basically strapping a motor and a parachute to your back. And the motor takes you off, and then you just fly. You just fly around. And he'll mount a camera to his helmet, or he'll carry a camera with him and just film. Farm pastures, rivers, cities from a mile up in the air. It's amazing. And he has a wonderful channel. He does all sorts of permutations on paragliding. He will sometimes do wreck analysis, where people, all fellow paragliders, including amateurs, will film some of their adventures, and the film captures them crashing or wiping out on a lake or in a forest or against a power line or something like that. And people send him these clips so that he can analyze them, analyze what went wrong. So it's informative, too, as well as just fascinating. It's always fascinating to watch somebody do something that you wouldn't do in a million years. Not in a million years. A far different cry from when I watch, for instance, a YouTube roughing it and camping it channels. Because I've done that. And there's a different kind of intimacy involved in those channels. Or I watch a few channels where people do single hull sailing over long hauls, weeks or even months at a time, out of sight of land. I've done that as well. So that feels different. I can look at those and sort of smile, and it feels there's an immediate connection. But there's a fascination definitely in watching videos of someone doing something that I've never done and would never do on a bet. But if you watch Tucker Gott's channel, the last thing on earth you would ever think, if you watched his channel and thought, well, I really get a lot out of this channel. I love it. See, it feels a little wrong to be watching it for free. And he has a post office box that he lists. Why don't I send him something? You wouldn't send him a paraglider. Right? It's the one thing you wouldn't send him. You wouldn't send him a paraglider. You would assume from his channel that because it is such a big part of his life, any choice of paraglider that you make would be the wrong one, would be a bad one, something that he'd already considered and rejected on his own, or already had, for some reason or other. Some things never change, even if there's home construction. You should think the same thing about me. I get advanced copies of books from publishers all the time. I have for ever and ever and ever. I read secondhand books and reread them. I know exactly what form and edition I want. So anyway, that's a long preamble. I opened the package. I just haven't looked inside it. Let's see what this person sent me. Because you're not supposed to send Steve a... Okay, well, there's obviously been a nuclear strike in Boston. Because that's 15 emergency vehicles that have howled by here. Which means the shockwave should be hitting me, but what better way to go out than making a Booktube channel? All right. Okay. I don't take back anything that I said, but this, oh my, this is Hilary Mantel. This is the third book in her Cromwell series, The Mirror and the Light. And it isn't just any Hilary Mantel. It is a Canadian trade paperback. So you've got the deckled edges and the French flaps. Nice, big, thick thing. You've got the embossed covers. And these things start out Wolf Hall. Is it actually here? Can you actually see it in this shot? No? It's right... No. Okay, it's right up here. Wolf Hall starts out with rude woodwork and bolts in the woodwork. And it progresses until finally you have this elaborate filigree. And that mirrors Cromwell's rise to power. These are novels about Thomas Cromwell rising to power in the court of King Henry VIII. I think the whole series should be called He Cromwell, because the book narrates the story in that way. It's told from the point of view of Thomas Cromwell and no one else. But it's not told in the first person singular. It's the first person singular narration, only it's told in third person reference. So Cromwell is always he, not I. And oftentimes in the course of the narrative, therefore, Hilary Mantel has to clarify. If she's writing a scene in which there are a number of different characters in the room, if someone speaks, she has to say he Cromwell. So I think that's the perfect name for the series. That's kind of what I call it in my mind. But I was at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston a while ago, and I found a Canadian trade paperback of Wolf Hall, first book in the series, that won the Booker Prize. And then the second book in the series, Bring Up the Bodies, also won the Booker Prize, and this also should have won the Booker Prize, but it came in just too late for the total co-option of book prizes for blue checkmark Twitter politics. And now that book prizes have been totally co-opted by that, no book like this will ever win another book prize. I can predict which books from any long list will win. I can predict which books from the short list will be on the long list, based only on Twitter politics. So this didn't win. It should have. It was 10 times better. 10 times better than any of the other contestants for that third Booker. It deserved 3 Bookers in a row. It very much deserved to happen, but it didn't. But anyway, when I found that copy of Wolf Hall, I'd already read the book a few times and reviewed it. And I thought, why don't I read it slowly? I'll use a mechanical pencil as a bookmark and annotate as I go and read it very slowly. 20 pages a day at the most. So a crawl on broken glass for me. And I loved the experience. Absolutely loved it. That was last summer. And then I got a copy of the second book, Bring Up the Bodies, and I thought, well, okay. In fact, this same worshipful fan, may have been the one to send me the second book in the series in a Canadian trade paperback. And I thought, I got it the other day, and I thought, last week or 2 weeks ago, something like that, and I thought, all right, well, great, but I'll wait until the autumn, and I didn't wait at all. I couldn't resist in the slightest. So I put a mechanical pencil inside that one and just crawled my way through that one. And it was great. It was such a great, great experience. And Bring Up the Bodies has fond memories for me. Not only because after Wolf Hall, I was worried that Bring Up the Bodies would be bad. I was worried that it would have been done for acclaim. Wolf Hall became one of the most acclaimed historical novels in history. I was worried that it was written for acclaim rather than because there was a fire in Hilary Mantel to write it. And not only was that worry groundless, it is a great book, but also I got to review it for the Wall Street Journal, which was a lot of fun. I think. All right, now I'm wondering. I think I reviewed it for the Journal. I might have reviewed it for the Washington Post, now that I think about it. Well, it doesn't matter. And here's the third one. And, I'm going to tell myself now, in front of you, for accountability, I'm going to tell myself that I am not going to start this and just sink myself into it for the rest of July. I'm going to tell myself that I'm not going to do that, but will I be able to resist? I don't know. All right, so the sender found this at secondhand bookstores. You can see it's had It's had a little bit of wear. All the better for me. I don't care at all what my books look like. The sender is excused. Since I said in a couple of videos that what I'd really like is this whole trilogy in the Canadian trade paperbacks. So the sender is excused. But none of the rest of you are. None of the rest of you get to send me things. Okay? The only thing I want now is there a box set of the Canadian trade paperbacks? I do so love me my box sets. In this case, I'd be willing to take duplication. I wonder if there is one. If you went into, does Canada have bookstores? Or is it only grizzly bears? I think it has bookstores, right? Canada has bookstores. It's not Australia or anything. If you were to go into a bookstore in Canada and walk up to the information, the information desk there, and ask, I'm sure it's not the sort of thing they'd have in a bookstore on the shelf, but if you ask them, is there a box set of Hilary Mantel's Cromwell books, the Wolf Hall books? Would there be in the system? Could you walk up to that information desk and order such a thing? Very tempting. This is very tempting. I have so much else to do. I really shouldn't allow this to just take over, but we'll see. Then the next thing is a box, which it's got to be a couple of things because what's my ergonomics going to be like here? This has got to be a couple of things because it can't just be one book. It's too big to be one book. I know what's coming for. Oh, this is packed like Fort Knox. Don't tell me this is from one of you as well. 2 violations of rule number 1 in one mail haul. Oh my God, it is. I can tell already. I don't know what it is, but it is. It's multiple books. Oh my God. Okay. All right. Yeah. This. I don't see the name from here, but this is a violation of rule number 1. This is sending me books. Not just a book, but many books. I probably can guess what prompted this, but this is a perfect example of what you shouldn't do. One of you, very kindly, sent me all of these white mass-market paperbacks of Bruce Catton, the great historian of the American Civil War. And probably whoever sent this did it because Jordan Parsons and I are doing a read-along of Never Call It Retreat in July. I hope. I hope we are. I hope the construction allows it. It looks like this video is possible, so I don't see why that video wouldn't be possible. I'm pretty sure you can hear me, even over the screaming sirens that never stop by day or night, even over maybe the distant whirring of the AC unit. I'm pretty sure that you can still hear me, so those videos will probably still happen. These were very signature mass-market paperbacks. Nothing else in the bookstore quite looked like them. I remember them in bookstores. I've had them. I've read these books many, many times in these formats. You have Stillness at Appomattox. You have The Coming Fury, perfect condition. You have Terrible Swift Sword. They all look like this. They have these sort of archival photos. You have This Hallowed Ground, my favorite book by this author. And you have Never Call Retreat. Now, that is a very generous thing that one of you did. And I appreciate it. But you shouldn't have. You really shouldn't have. So, I don't know where these are going to go either. They're going to have to go in here. Because every other bookcase in the place is tarped over. And those tarps are probably spattered with paint or asbestos or whatever by now. So, these are going to have to live in here for now. And I've been thinking about that too. That maybe that is apropos. I have a bookcase here. I don't know if you can see it. No, you definitely can't see it. I have a floor-to-ceiling bookcase of romance novels. One of the bookcases in this room is floor-to-ceiling mass-market romance novels, double-stacked, filled with romance novels. And then everything else is trade paperbacks. There are a couple of shelves on the Penguin bookcase here that's also floor-to-ceiling, that are mass markets, that are double stacked. Mass market being these smaller paperbacks that really aren't made anymore. And I have a lot of fondness for a lot of mass markets. I've been thinking about either working some of them into this room or maybe clearing out another bookcase and filling it with mass market paperbacks. And this would be a perfect start to that. Well, thank you, whoever did this. Thank you very much. Just don't do it again. Okay, don't. So we have, this is an anti-rule number one mail haul. That's all that this is. There's nothing for publishers. I got all of Bruce Catton in these great old white mass market paperbacks from one of you, and I got The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel in this beautiful Canadian trade paperback. How wonderful. Oh, it's calling to me. Oh, my. So there you go. That's our mail. Total rereads, things that I know I love, and nothing from publishers. So that's the way the cookie crumbles. So thank you both. In this case, I would never thank a publicist, but I can definitely thank civilians. Thank you very much, both of you, for sending these things. I'm going to wrap this up for now. I'm hoping that it's audible, and I'll be back. Thank you, Booktube.